A 787 of Air India? A Herpa Wings Club model? Well, count me in as being excited, but can the aircraft model live up to that hype? We'll find out right after the drop. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at a Boeing 787-8 of Air India. At the front of the box we have the cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of the box we have the Air India branding and another logo, more on that a bit later. At the back side of the box, unfortunately, we have this absolutely dreadful box design of Herpa Wings. Unfortunately, they do continue with this box design no matter what. Not even for their Wings Club models they are bothered to actually give us something decently looking. So the only thing we can say here simply is that it is a Herpa Wings Club model and a limited edition. And before we get too far into today's review, it is worth mentioning that this aircraft model does come with a stand. And here she is, the Boeing 787-8 of Air India in the 150 years of celebrating the Mahatma livery. The livery was introduced in accordance with the celebration surrounding the 150th birthday of Mahatma Gandhi in 2019. And today we finally have this awesome looking aircraft model. So let's take a closer look at the aircraft model, and we start off with the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer, instead of having the usual Air India branding, find this logo that was used in regards to celebrating 150 years of the Mahatma. And if I had to take a wild guess, I would say it's depicting Mahatma Gandhi during the Salt March that of course made him famous around the world. On the fuselage we then find the aircraft type specification, the full registration code of the aircraft and the Dreamliner branding, as well as some printed detailing on the horizontal stabilizer and a little bit of detailing around the APU exhaust at the very tail of the aircraft. Given that it is a Scale 500 aircraft model, we don't have any physical detailing when it comes to antennas, but we do have some indicated in form of print on top of the fuselage, which I find to be a great compromise. And printed details we can find a plethora of at the front of the aircraft, where we across the fuselage have the Air India branding in what I believe is Hindi, but do correct me if I'm wrong here, and on the other side in English. Then we also have the Indian flag, the Star and Lions logo, of which the airline is a full member. Again, the 150 years of celebrating the Mahatma logo, as well as the IATA logo, and then just an awesome amount of small printed details, sensors and all sorts of stuff here across the fuselage. Looks absolutely awesome. And these details we also find around the cockpit section, where we, other than all these small sensors, and of course also have the circle around the radome, the cockpit windows, as well as the window wipers, and above the cockpit windows also the emergency hatch for the cockpit printed on. But that's not the only place where we find awesome printed details, because if we look at the engine nacelles, firstly we find the Air India branding, but then we also have this little red stripe and some red dots. That's the jet blast warning indication. Awesome that we have it there. Makes a huge difference to an engine nacelle, especially when it's white. Of course, also have the silver leading edge. And where Herpa has really excelled as well is then with the physical detailing, especially the chevron nozzles have been pulled off very nicely. And of course, if we look into the engines from the front, we can also very nicely see the engine fan blades. Then we can move on to the wings, which we should definitely also take a closer look at. Starting off here with the top side, where we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. We have the marking as to where to walk on the wing and the full registration code of the aircraft, which we then also find on the underside of the wing. Another lovely detail that has been printed onto the wings are the landing lights, which I'm really happy about, because Herpa quite often leaves them away, even with Herpa Wings Club models, but here we have them, which is awesome. And if we take a quick look as well on the landing gear, we will see that this is the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their 787 Dreamliners. But honestly speaking, I don't think that's a bad thing, because overall I think it actually looks rather nice. And what I'm really happy about is that they have even added a little bit of printed detailing to the front landing gear. And then last but not least, we also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on. And even though we have seen those more detailed with other Herpa Wings Club models, I would say they are acceptable given how many other printed details we already have found on the model here. So there we have it, the Boeing 787-8 of Air India in the 150 years of celebrating the Mahatma livery of Herpa Wings in scale 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? First of all, I do love when an aircraft has an history. Or in this case, it's celebrating the history of one of the most iconic figures of the 20th century history, Mahatma Gandhi. And I do very much like the Air India livery, especially on the 787. I think it's a really great match. And what we then also have to point out is the fact that Herpa has done an excellent job with their print. Not just the print quality, but also the amount of printed details we find on this aircraft model is simply awesome. And Herpa has also done a really excellent job when it comes to the physical detailing of this aircraft model. So while the year 2020 frankly has been a dreadful year for Herpa Wings when it comes to releasing good aircraft models, this is one of them. For me, this is so far one of the highlights, if not the best aircraft model that Herpa has released this year. And I would say absolutely it is worth having in one's collection. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like. That would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.